Hey guys, this is Corndog from the Bantha crew, and today I'm going to show you the deck list I used to get this awesome champion promo of Mace Windu at my local store Champions. I'd like to give a shout out to Gear Gaming for hosting this event. They also threw in the sweet IG88 showcase card for the winner. They also did store credit, and they had this trophy made up. They had one for second place too with the Imperial design, which was awesome. I have this guy here for a little bit later. I'll just tell you a little bit about him. Alright, so to get into the deck list, I played Han. I saw a lot of Han this past week at the store championship. That was probably 7 Hans, and we had about 27 people. We had 5 rounds of Swiss, and then we had the top 8. And it was pretty cool because they let us do intentional draws, but in my 4th round I got paired down, so I had to play that one anyways, but I went undefeated in Swiss, and I played Green Han. I did a little custom base here. I thought it was pretty cool. I showed it off in the Facebook group if you're a part of that. Just took a little snow speeder, cut it out. I didn't use this one at the tournament because I hadn't thought of it before that, but I definitely would have if I had thought of it. So we played Green Han. Like I said, we played 5 rounds and then cut to top 8. So I'm going to start out with the deck list. We run 3 of R2-D2. This card is just really fantastic. You're going to hear the word fantastic a lot out of me because I think these cards are fantastic. This deck, when you're playing it, a lot of the times you feel like you almost can't lose. There's some rough matchups, but you have a lot of really good matchups. So R2 just helps you see your cards that you're going to play and pairs very well with C3PO. This deck list that I runs a ton of 3s, so every time you play him, you're just going to name 3 because it's what's going to be on top. It's always a 3 because I run so many in this deck list. So C3PO, he's awesome. I like the 1/4 stat on both of them, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. Next up, I run a 2 of Leia, just sort of a package for U-Wing, or also to play, she's great, being able to tap down an opposing Boba Fett or a Sabine just to buy you time, because that's what this deck wants to do. Just buy a little bit of time, and then it's all gravy from there. Admiral Akbar, I run a 2 of him. I really liked seeing him in my opening hand, or later. It didn't really matter. I mean, I picked off Greedos. He's able to, he's a rebel. He's got Restore. You wouldn't think Restore 1 would matter too much, but I mean, a lot of the games come down to the wire when you're playing against Sabine, and it really helps out a lot. I was able to push a lot of damage also with this guy. Put a little bit of damage on a Boba Fett leader and then finish him off with an Akbar. He's a great hit off of U-Wing as well, so I run a 2 of them just so I can find him off U-Wing. I ran a full 3 of Wing Leader just to be able to buff my R2, my C3PO, my early plays, just in case my opponent dropped a Wing Leader and I didn't have a waylay. I could match their Wing Leader with a Wing Leader, which is incredibly important. Alright, next up, we're going to go with the 3 of Fleet Lieutenant. Kind of the same deal. If you play an R2, or if you have an R2 in your hand and a Wing Leader, you don't feel bad keeping that against Sabine, because you can, Fleet Lieutenant the Wing Leader and take out any ground threat that they may have. So I really like having this in the deck, and it's also a nice hit off of Home 1 to push some damage late game and get some instant heal. Like I said, that Restore 1 sometimes comes in clutch. You're running Han, so you get to run the full 3 Falcons, and you don't really have to worry about the payability every single time. Obviously, you're not going to be putting a card in your resource every turn, but when Sabine's sitting next to you or across from you, it makes them think twice about playing that A-Wing, because if they play the A-Wing turn 1 and you have Falcon, it's really hard for them to recover. And a lot of the times, if you're playing against Yellow Sabine, you may pick off the A-Wing and then pick this back up in hand. just so it doesn't get picked off by their Millennium Falcon and you kind of lose tempo. But I mean, either way, if they're not attacking your base, they're not attacking your base, so that's nice. Then we run a 3 of Echo Base Defender. You know, like I said, you're just trying to make it to your Han flip turn. You're also trying to protect your Han flip turn. So another card that's really important in this deck, I don't run Gamorrean Guards. I don't run Rogue Operative, which is the Saboteur 2/4. I don't like that card in this build because you're wanting to play a 3-drop on turn 1 if you're playing Sabine, unless it's an R2 or C-3PO with the Fleet Lieutenant. That way you can take out their opposing ground unit. This would just trade, so you wouldn't want to play this turn 1 generally. But this card came in clutch during the tournament. Being able to find it off U-Wing, 6 resources is a really, detrimental turn for Han. So if you have this on the board, it protects you from things being ECL'd into Han and taking them out immediately. So I really like this card, and also, like I said, finding them off U-Wing is great, but also a turn 1 3/4. That's a big stat you're looking for. This and Ezra, it gives you that kind of flexibility to say, okay, I can find the Ezra or find this, and then I have my turn 1 set up against Sabine. So I looked for those cards. And speaking of Ezra, we have Ezra. He's a great turn 1 play. You have to complete the attack to get this ability, which is to look at the top card. You play it, discard it, leave it on top. You know, a lot of times you're just looking for a resupply in the Green Han list, and he helps you do that. C-3PO helps you do that, and R2 helps you do that. So those are big. I run a 2 of Bright Hope. This is for U-Wing. It's nice to have also against Sabine if you're just playing, you know, if you're not going full resupply without having like a big hit in your hand. This can buy you some time, definitely. And also off U-Wing, being able to play this, pick up an R2, draw a card, it's pretty good. Also run a 2 of Escort Skiff. This was what I kind of replaced the Gamorrean Guards with, because I run a more green package. If you noticed with the Echo Base Defender and the Homestead Militia, a lot of the times you are going to have a green unit or the Bright Hope, and you have an instant ambusher to take care of a threat or put damage on a Boba Fett and finish him off with an Akbar, which is nice. Another ambush card we have is a 2 of Ozatuk. This card, I really like this card. You'd never feel really bad when you draw it in your opening 2, you know. Your first turn or second turn drawing this and they went space, you don't really feel bad about this because a lot of the times you're able to help, like I said, you're just trying to stall in this deck until you can play your big stuff. And speaking of big stuff, Han Solo. He's very hard to deal with. Once he's on the board, he sticks around for a long time, and if you can land a Han Solo, in one of my matches, I had a Spark of Rebellion, which is in the sideboard, and they had Han Solo and a U-Wing, and I picked off the Han Solo because I didn't have a direct answer for it, and they could whiff off the U-Wing, and they happened to. They got a 3 and a 4. I don't really care about that. That's fine. You get as many 3 and 4s as you want, but a Han Solo is it's also an action saver. A lot of people think, you know, okay, I got a 3 and a 4, I got 2 cards, but then you got to attack with that one, you got to attack with that one. This one's 1 attack, done, you know, takes no damage, saves your actions. Then the absolute all-star, and I feel like the key to this deck winning the tournament, for sure, I ran a 2 of Luke Skywalker. There was a couple times in the tournament where I paid 9 for this guy and it still felt fine. This, in my opinion, if I had the choice to see this on the opposing side of the field or them play a Darth Vader unit, I'd rather see a Darth Vader 10 out of 10. This card is my favorite legendary. I think it's the best legendary in the game, honestly. Like, it's the scariest one. I mean, besides like Devastator, but that costs like 10. Seeing this hit the board, you just, I don't know, you grown, your opponent's grown. The Restore 3 is huge, being able to pick off anything, anywhere. A lot of times, like with the ambush cards I run, the Sentinel cards, something I have has gone, you know, into the graveyard, discard pile, whatever. But Luke Skywalker, that's why I have him sitting over here next to the trophy. because he was the MVP, all-star MVP, you know, whatever you want to call it. If I saw him off U-Wing, I was gonna grab him, you know, unless it was like they were about to push for game, like right then, right there. I picked a Luke Skywalker. I played 3 Blonde Sabines in this tournament, and this card was just so clutch, so clutch. All right, next up we got Home 1. I ran 2 of this card. I could have run 3, but honestly, I didn't have a third one, and I didn't feel like I needed a third one. There wasn't a time where I felt like I needed it because I ran the 2 Lukes. You know, if you're running against Sabine, which I ran against 3 in the tournament, you know, you're probably just going to resource this, honestly. I took this out sideboard every time I played Sabine. It was just too slow against Sabine. You know, U-Wing's what you're really looking for against Sabine. To hit a Luke or Han Solo, you know, or a couple Sentinel units, like I said, just so you can stall to buy a little bit of time. This is Green Han, so you have the luxury of playing a resupply. If I have this in my hand and I have a C3PO, I'm probably going to play the C3PO first, name 3, try to draw a card, and play this on my next turn, just to see what my opponent's going to do. I don't know. You can play this turn 1 if you're playing against Boba, easy. But against Sabine, it's a little trickier because, like I said, there's things that they can play that'll punish you for playing this card early, like not having follow-up in your hand for the 7-drop turn, or if you're playing against Blonde Sabine, they could Leia your Han on the turn you're going to go for Han. So it's weird saying that you have to play the game a little bit slower when you're wanting to get to 7 so quick, but if they Leia or surprise strike your Han, you're just going to be out of the game. So a lot of people might have trouble in that matchup, so just kind of analyze the situation. And I built this deck specifically for control, and there wasn't a lot of control at the tournament because the C3PO R2 draws a lot of cards, and it varies the control deck and card advantage. And other games, blue, you think, oh, draw cards, but it's not that way in this game. Control decks really, they live off the top of the deck. They're waiting for the super laser blast. They're doing 1-for-1 trades. This deck draws so many cards and can flood the board that even after a super laser blast, you know, you have so much and you get there so much quicker. So I built that with control in mind, but it's also pretty good against Sabine. The Boba Fett matchup, I played my buddy Lewis in round 3. He's also in the Bantha crew, Lou. He's running Boba. I've play tested against him, or you know, we've had our rounds, and I was able to take him just because you got to play the match. You know, you gotta stall sometimes. You gotta wait 1 turn to resource. That way you don't get overwhelming barrage. Sometimes, yeah, there's a lot of things you have to look out for when you're playing Han. You have to pilot it correctly, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, get at. But another all-star of the deck was Waylay. This card is the king of buy you some time, and it feels especially good when they use their wing leader on any unit but Sabine, because you just waylay that unit and it feels like you already won at that point. Even if the games get close, the waylay is so good. Like I said, you're seeing a lot of extra cards with the C3PO package than you would in the Greedo package, which I think this is the superior list. I'm sorry, I just do. Especially with more people playing control. If you're playing the Greedo package with the Battlefield Marines and stuff, you may have, you know, a better game against Sabine, but against the control decks, they just eat that stuff up. Next up, the U-Wing reinforcement. Yeah, I mean, not much to say about this card. It's amazing. I've covered it before. You know, you get to top 10. That's a 5th of your deck, which is insane. Well, it's more than a 5th because you've already drawn, you know, your first 6 and much more after this. So you just get to see so much of your deck. So running the 2 Lukes, I feel like, is a really good ratio as far as like being able to see a Luke. So I really like that. Next up with the sideboard, I ran a 1 of reinforcement walker. little shiny boy. I brought this in against Boba. I see some people bringing it again against Sabine. I have a different package for Sabine, so I didn't bring this in against Sabine. I just thought it was too slow, even in a Han deck, because Sabine can... Those yellow Sabine, thanks to Frank Myers, my buddy, you might have known him from... he top-8'd SCG Atlanta, and he top-8'd the 5K also, and he's, you know, local in-boss where I'm from, and I've played against his Sabine list a few times, and it can do blast damage out of nowhere with Falcon and a surprise strike, and, you know, so I knew this was going to be too slow, so I did not even bring it in against Sabine. Some people might, and that's fine. Maybe, I don't know. Green Sabine doesn't have the blast damage, like the direct, like the surprise strikes and stuff, so I don't know. I just didn't bring this in. 2 Sparkle Rebellions, you know, there's a case to be made for this to be main board. A lot of people will make that case. I don't like running this card main board just because there's a lot of hands where you're stuck with 1 card left in hand, and it's the U-wing reinforcement because you ramped so hard, and I don't know. It's nice to have. It obviously can take out the overwhelming barrages, you know, the things that you're worried about, but I'm fine with it in the sideboard. Obviously, I don't know. It treated me well in the sideboard. I brought it again in against the mirror. You don't want it against Sabine. I feel like Sabine is this deck's worst matchup. Green Sabine. The yellow Sabine, you have pretty good luck with. The green one, with Rebel Assault, it can get a bit tricky, and you can't afford to see these cards. I think it's better against yellow Sabine because I don't have these cards main board. But that's just, you know, my opinion. I ran 2 of Traitorous. You know, it's great against like the mid-range decks. I brought it in even against Han just because I was able to take, you know, an Ezra Bridger, and then, you know, you're able to get the card advantage off that. I sideboarded it in against yellow Sabine. I probably wouldn't sideboard it against green Sabine. I don't know why. Maybe it's the Falcon, but that sounds redundant. But maybe, I don't know. I'd have to think about that more. This was a last-minute inclusion into the deck, and I did round 1 play against Blonde Sabine, and I did use this to take one of their cards, and then I used it against Han. So, I mean, it's a pretty good card. You know, it's a removal card, and you get a threat. Colonel Ecl Han, Colonel Sanders. This guy's pretty good. Brought him in against Sabine, you know, life gain. He was clutch. I was able to drop him, then find another, play him, you know, get rid of him, but gain the life off of him before he was gone. So that was nice. Saved me in top 8 against yellow Sabine. And then I run 3 Battlefield Marine in the side. So I kind of like, my sideboard is more geared towards the Sabine matchup. My main board was for control for Boba, and it performed like, I don't know, it was awesome. It felt like most of the games, like through Swiss, I was undefeated, but my top 8 and top 4 matches, I dropped games, and then in the finals, which I played Frank, with his amazing yellow Sabine list, I was able to go 2-0. A little bit of luck. This deck relies on top decks, but it has huge top decks. I was empty-handed. I had a Han on board, and he used Change of Heart. He stole my Han. He had a pumped up Alliance X-Wing, and then a Wing Leader, and then something else. He had the surprise strike in hand because he told me afterwards. And he stole my Han unit, and I was at 12, and he had like 18 damage that he could have dealt, and I top decked a U-Wing and was able to get the Homestead Militia and a Bright Hope, and it just locked down both arenas, and that was the game. That was the game right there. This card just does so much. The deck's also really fun. It's very rewarding to play, and yeah, I definitely recommend giving it a try because it's awesome. I like all the variants. I'd say my second favorite is probably the Blue Han, just because I think this guy is the best legendary in the game. But yeah, that's all I got for you. Like and subscribe, Bantha Crew.